Hello everybody and welcome to a very unique video. I'm sort of experimenting with some new recording things right now. So the Oscars were a week ago at this stage, and I know that I am the last person to make a retrospective video, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One, I really wasn't sure what to say. In previous years, I hadn't done a reaction video at all, and because there weren't any huge surprises this year, I wasn't really sure if I should bother to make one, but it felt like a waste after all of those videos I did in the lead up to the Oscars to not do anything talking about how I felt about the ceremony. Just felt wrong. And so I actually did record a video that was just me talking unscripted about my thoughts. And to be honest, I really didn't like that video at all. I thought it was very low energy and very negative and very tired. It just wasn't the sort of thing that I wanted to share. And so I thought, well, this whole past year, I've really been trying to expand the sort of stuff that I do on YouTube and do some more fun content. And this is another one of those video ideas that I've had in my head for a while now. So this is me doing a tier list. What I'm going to do, yeah, I'm very hip with the trends. I'm going to basically rank every Oscar win based on how deserving it was and how well it's going to hold up as the correct choice. Now, obviously, all art is subjective, which makes the whole process of trying to reward films and trying to reward which piece of art is better. There's obviously so much subjectivity involved, and there's subjectivity involved every year. Obviously, every one of the winners, there was enough people involved that thought this was the best choice. But how well did the taste of the Academy align with the taste of the general public? Because we can say, oh yeah, Casablanca, Best Picture, that was the correct choice. You can't argue with that. You can also say Crash, Best Picture, that was definitely the wrong choice. And I've really struggled with my love for the Academy Awards over the years because I love being able to point to a movie that I enjoy that won an Oscar and be like, yes, the Oscars validate my love for this movie. But also, a lot of times, the Oscars get it wrong. And I like to believe that the Oscars get it wrong more often than they get it right. But I've yet to actually put that theory to the test. And I sort of did this on my own terms and with some previous years. Maybe I'll share some of those thought experiments with you if this video goes well. But basically, I want to look at each of the Oscar wins in every category and and what I'm ranking is not necessarily how good is this movie or performance. It's really just, was this the correct choice? And is this choice going to stand up well? So the tiers that I have, objectively the correct choice, very difficult to argue with it as the winner. Pretty good choice. There's no denying that this is a worthy achievement, but there's some debate as to if it was the most worthy. Up for debate. Some of the ones that are going to go here are sort of, yes, it's worthy, but this other thing was also worthy, and you can argue till the cows come home, and we'll never have a clear answer as to which is the better piece of art. Not a great choice. This is when the consensus is definitely that, yeah, I get why it won, but this would have been better. And objectively the wrong choice. This is when anybody can tell you that this is not what should have won. So, with the tiers explained, we've got 23 categories to get into. And during this video, I'm also going to share my thoughts on the ceremony as a whole. This is just my way of talking about what won, the big moments of the night, and just my thoughts on the winners overall. And of course, what's tricky is I'm going into this with my own opinion, but I also want to try to speak to the broader population, which I think I can do well enough because I've seen enough of film Twitter to know how generally people are reacting to this. But yeah, so I don't know for sure. There's definitely going to be debate in the comments, and I welcome that as long as it's constructive. Yeah, so with all that said, let's start. Our first winner is Best Documentary Short, which, yeah, sorry. Okay, still looking at the kinks. But documentary short, we have The Only Girl in the Orchestra. So this beat out Death by Numbers, I'm Ready Warden, Incident, and The Only Girl in the Orchestra. That's what won. It beat out the other one about a girl playing music, which is Instruments of a Beating Heart. Why do those two have to have such similar sounding titles? Okay, so The Only Girl in the Orchestra, Netflix short film. A lot of people were predicting it. But in my opinion, this is not a very good choice. I said in my video that Incident was my favorite of the nominees. And granted, I didn't see all of them. But what was really curious about documentary short this year is so many people who had seen all the nominees, they all agreed unanimously, oh, Incident is the best one by a mile. Incident is so compelling, but it's not going to win. And I was always a little bit baffled by that. I was like, maybe they'll vote for the one that everyone agrees is the best, but they were like, no, it's not the Academy's cup of tea. It's going to make them feel uncomfortable. It's too dark. They're going to go for the one that's more feel good. And so it was my one no guts, no glory. I went out on a limb and predicted Incident to win, but no, it lost to The Only Girl in the Orchestra. Now, I will say, The Only Girl in the Orchestra is not a bad short film. Like, we've had winners in the short film categories that are downright offensive, and that's not what this is. But it just seems so slight because, as I said in the video, this is the niece of Oren O'Brien making a documentary piece about her aunt. And clearly, the niece went into this project wanting to do something about how brave she was and how she broke the glass ceiling and what a great thing it was that she was the first girl to be in the Philharmonic. But unfortunately, Oren O'Brien doesn't want to talk about that aspect of her life. She doesn't see herself as special, and so she doesn't want the documentary to make her out to be someone special. She wants it, she's like, just show me as a regular person, and that's kind of what the documentary does, arguably to the detriment of the film. And again, it's not a bad short. I understand why it's made in that way, but you compare it to something like Incident that was so powerful. And I think, I don't know how many people are going to care about who wins the short film categories, but I just feel like Incident winning, everyone would have gotten behind that. And I'm sorry, I'm going to put this in objectively the wrong choice, because I think if you polled enough people who had actually watched all of them, the consensus would be Incident by a wide margin. And this short is fine, but it really, really didn't need to win. And so, yeah, I do think they messed up. Now, that actually might be the weakest win out of all of these. We're following that up with animated short, In the Shadow of the Cypress. And this was a big surprise. Not a lot of people predicted this. And it's hard for me to really say because I didn't see it, but I noticed that anytime I would listen to people who had predicted it, who had predicted all of the short film categories, they never talked about this one. It was always Wander to Wonder is good, but a little weird. Yuck is really fun. Magic Candies is cute. Beautiful Men is good. In the Shadow of the Cypress was always the last one that people mentioned. People were like, oh yeah, that one was okay. It was kind of weird. I don't know if people outright hated it, but people didn't seem to have a whole lot to say about it. And to be perfectly honest, I just feel like no one was really excited by the win. Yes, it did make history. It's from Iran, and there was this whole narrative about the filmmakers who had to they got their visa just hours before accepting their Oscar, which is a great narrative. But honestly, I think when people are going to look back on this category, they're going to remember the awkwardness of that speech and how the female winner was in the middle of reading her speech, and the male winner took the speech away from her and proceeded to recite verbatim everything that she had just said, which made for a really, really uncomfortable moment on stage. And if you look at the whole speech, and at the beginning of it, they were sort of playfully going back and forth and each wanting to say a part of the speech. So I can give the guy a little benefit of the doubt and like, oh, he just wanted to say his part and he didn't realize that she had already said it, but it just looked really bad. It looked like he was mansplaining how to give an acceptance speech. And, I don't think... Wander to Wonder had the BAFTA and it had the Annie, and so I think that was the most respected short, but Yuck also would have been cute to see win. And just no one was talking about this as a winner, and when it won, the reaction was, huh, okay. And so I think we're going to have to put this in not a great choice. Again, I don't know how many people truly care about the short film categories, but I don't think this was anyone's favorite. I don't think this was anyone's pick. It probably won due to a lot of vote splitting. And now that it has the awkwardness of that speech sort of tainting the moment, I don't think anyone's super happy about this. I can't say it was objectively a bad short, but I can't say it was a great choice. Live action short went to I Am Not a Robot, and this was another big surprise. Most people were either predicting Alien or The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent. And what's funny is when you actually look at it in hindsight, it does make a certain amount of sense how it won. First of all, because the other two shorts were kind of splitting votes with each other. They were both about really serious subject matters, similar subject matters. Maybe people weren't sure which one to go with. I'm Not a Robot had the benefit of being the most original short in the category, the most unique one. And as I said in my video, this short film really does feel like a proof of concept. When it ended, I was like, that's it. I feel like there's more to this story. I feel like this director wants to make a feature with this idea. And now I found out that the filmmakers are going to be expanding the short into a feature, which is great. I'm really excited for them. And I'm happy that they got their moment. They seem to get along a lot better than the animated short winners. And so I am ultimately going to say, I mean, it's hard because no one was really predicting it, but I don't know if anyone's really disappointed by it. I think this one might go in up for debate. Should I put it in good choice? I kind of don't know. I don't know how to feel about the short categories. I don't know if people are going to be like, oh, that was the best one. It's very, very rare that there's a short that just moves everyone and people are like, oh, yeah, that was the correct choice. I think if Incident had won, I would want to put it up here. But I think I'll put it in up for debate for now. I think this is definitely the best of the three short winners. But again, I don't know how many people full on loved it, but I think, yeah, no one was that disappointed. Were any of the 5 shorts for live action film truly loved? No, but this seems like generally the nice one. Oh, see, now I want to put it up here. I might move these around. I don't know. Okay, I'll have that here for now. Maybe I'll move it later. Documentary feature, No Other Land. This is a win that a lot of people were really, really happy about, and I saw so many people be like, they're not going to go for it. They're going to go for Porcelain War because that's the safe choice. People are too concerned to watch this because of the Israel-Palestine connection. But the consensus was definitely that this was the best of the nominees. Now, if Will and Harper had been there, I think that might have been a competition, but of what was here, I can't judge by what wasn't nominated. I have to judge by what was nominated. And I really do think that No Other Land, again, this was one of the only Oscar-nominated feature films that I couldn't see, so I can't fully... Everything beyond this point, I have seen all the nominees, so I can share my opinion on that one. But I think the consensus is pretty strong that this was a very good winner. And because outside of No Other Land and Porcelain War, none of the other 3 were really being talked about as a great winner. And you know what? I'm going to put it up here. I'm going to put it in objectively the correct choice. And I'm sure I'm going to get some people upset at me, particularly in regards to the Israel-Palestine conflict. But I think they gave a very good speech, and they sort of highlighted why it's important to acknowledge everything that's happening in the war, but also to come together. And so I think that No Other Land, from everything I've heard, I would love to see it. From everything I've heard, it seems like a fascinating film, and people are so happy that it won, or at least more happy about this film as a winner than they would have been about any of the other 4 nominees. So, No Other Land, I'm going to put in the top tier. I'm still here. Yeah, I'm not even going to toy. That also goes in top tier. This was a special win. This was a truly special win because not everyone was predicting it. Even though I was fairly confident they was going to win, there were a lot of people that were like, yeah, but stats. Amelia Perez has all the stats. But this is truly a unique situation. This is a situation that we've never quite seen before, where one movie was having a meteoric rise and another movie was having a catastrophic fall. Amelia Perez has faced more backlash than any other Oscar nominee, perhaps in history, and I'm still here. It just showed up at the right moment. It got the Best Picture nomination. Everyone was talking about it. It was exciting, and it became this great, to say nothing of all of the Brazilians who fought really, really hard for it. Brazil has never won in this category, and what a great first film to win for. a film about Brazilian history. It's just, I know that so many people are so, so happy. So I'm actually going to put this above, technically, I'm going to put this above No Other Land Winning Documentary, because that one there's going to be some debate about, but I think I'm Still Here people generally love. Now, some might say that Seed of the Sacred Fig or Flow would have made a better winner. I think I personally would have voted for Flow in this category, but in terms of what's going to make the general population the happiest, I think I'm Still Here winning this was a really, really great win and a really great moment in the Oscar ceremony. And then we have Flow. And this one's tough for me, because Flow is one of my favorite movies of the year, and I'm very, very happy that it won. At the same time, Wild Robot is also amazing. And this is the one category where I would have loved to have seen a tie. I think either film would have made a very, very deserving winner. And there's going to be, in many ways, this one is up for debate, because I can see a convincing argument either way for either movie winning. And yet I kind of want to put it up here just because it's such a great movie and I love that it won. But I don't know, because it's tough. Wild Robot also would have made an incredible winner. Now, one thing that I didn't say is the fact that DreamWorks released that awful Shrek 5 teaser in the few days before the Oscars. I feel like if that trailer came out during voting, then I would have felt very confident in voting for Flow. People would not want to vote for DreamWorks after that trailer that is clearly using AI. I don't care what anyone says. And it would have been sort of a take that DreamWorks vote to give it to Flow. But, I mean, DreamWorks is respected, at least was before that trailer came out, so it would have made sense if Wild Robot had won. And obviously, the making of Wild Robot has nothing to do with the making of that trailer. I believe Wild Robot was the last movie to be animated in-house at DreamWorks, so that could have been seen as a really great moment. Chris Sanders, obviously very beloved in the industry, did How to Train Your Dragon. It would have been great to see him win. I would have been happy regardless of who won. And with both movies, Flow got the International Feature nomination, Wild Robot got in for song and not for sound and for score. So both movies are very beloved. But see, this one's really tough because it's how I rank it, because it's here because it's a great winner. It's here because it's a really, really amazing film and I'm happy that it won. But it's also here because, I don't know, Wild Robot would have been great too. And I know that there are some people who have only seen Wild Robot and have not seen Flow. And I'm like, I can't believe Wild Robot lost. And it's tough. And also, we have to acknowledge that this is definitely a trend after Boy and the Heron, people going for the underdog in this category, people going for the international film and not the big studio American film. That's a new trend, and it's exciting to see. But also, as good as Flow and Boy and the Heron were, Spider-Verse and Wild Robot also great and would have been very deserving winners. And if we're gonna do this thing of going for the international film and not the studio American movie, could we not have given it to Wolfwalkers over Soul a couple years ago? Like, where was that mentality then? I would have loved to have seen that. But, okay, this is tough because I love the Flow win so much. I'm going to put it up for debate because that's why I have this category. And I feel like the fact that you can argue this category either way is great, but at least it's getting more people to see Flow. Don't argue that Wild Robot should have won if you haven't seen Flow, because Flow is amazing and you owe it to yourself to watch it. I'm going to... Can I put it here, sort of in the middle? Actually, I'm going to do it there for now. I feel really weird about it. These tiers are so debatable because it's like, do you vote for the movie that you like the best, or do you vote for what was the best of the nominees? And it's tough. It's tough because Wild Robot also would have been so good. Okay, I've been talking for too long about this category. Let's go to Best Sound, which went to Dune Part 2. I think this is a pretty good win. Because as good as Wicked is, and as much as I love Wicked, I don't think Wicked would have been the best winner for sound. I think the sound in that movie actually has some issues, and I wouldn't have wanted it to win over Dune. Complete Unknown, which was probably the realistic number two, I also really would not have liked that as a winner because there's nothing that special about the use of sound in the film. And wasn't going to be Amelia Perez. I would have loved Wild Robot, but that was never going to happen. And so I do think the consensus is that does that feel weird? I think if you polled a bunch of people on film Twitter, maybe not everyone would say Dune Part 2 was a deserving winner, but I feel fairly confident that the majority of people would. And I feel like not a ton of people are upset by this win. So I'm going to put it there for now. Original song, oh boy, this one's tough. So Amelia Perez won 2 Oscars, and both of them, you can understand why the win happened, but that doesn't mean you have to like it. So with this song, it's the best moment of the movie, Almal. It's a great song. No, I'm not gonna say it. It's a great moment in the film. It's really worth it for the way that the cinematography captures it, the way the editing works, the way Zoe Saldana performs the number. That's what you take away, not the song itself, which is kind of catchy, but not the catchiest thing that would have won. The competition in this category, though, was so weak, and the closest thing, well, the song that should have won would have been Like a Bird from Sing Sing, which is not the most memorable song in the world, but it's the best one of this very weak lineup. It makes sense why Almal won, but okay, do I put it in objectively the wrong choice? I think you can almost make a case for it, but then there's the whole thing with the speech, how not only did they sing Amelia Perez, which was weird, but they also both of the winners of Amelia Perez, when they gave their acceptance speeches, did not talk about the trans community, which for Saldana, I kind of get because she was trying to distance herself from the movie as much as possible. But the song, they really shouldn't have. And what's so awkward is that the song El Mal is when Saldana's character is calling out Amelia for her hypocrisy. And so when the songwriters were accepting their award, they're like, we're calling out all the bigotry and the hypocrisy of the world, and we're calling out the violence. And it maybe rang a little bit oddly because, like, Amelia is not... Are we supposed to see her as the good guy? Are we supposed to see her as the bad guy? Is this movie... Is it supporting trans rights? If anything, it's supporting trans wrongs, which is... I don't know, it just feels so messy. And Jacques Audiard, he looked like he was about to say something, and then they sang Amelia. But the real nail in the coffin was in the press room when they asked, do you feel like you should have said something regarding the trans community? And Audiard had the gall to say, we would have said something if we would have won Best Picture. Which, don't say that, man. Don't say it. It is just, that is a really, really bad look. I am so grateful that the Amelia Perez award season is behind us and we no longer have to live in that world. But I think Audiard's been canceled now after this movie, and I'm very satisfied for it. Do I put it in the bottom tier? I kind of want to, but I kind of get it at the same time. But I think the stigma surrounding that win, you know what? I think if you ask a bunch of people, especially when time passes and we've taken a step away from Amelia Perez, I think that movie is not going to be... Like, no one's going to be like, Amelia Perez was good, actually. I think it's only going to age worse and worse as time goes on. And the fact that this song won... I don't think it's quite as bad as the documentary short win. I think you can excuse it a little bit, but I just don't like this win at all. And I think in the future, everyone will agree that... I don't know if people will want Diane to have won, but I think people will say, Sing Sing, Like a Bird, that should have been the Oscar winner. In general, people will watch Sing Sing and be like, how did this not get nominated for more Oscars? This is such a good movie. And we will never know. A24 really, really dropped the ball on that one. Speaking of A24, original score for The Brutalist. Okay, so this is tricky now, because if we're going off of all of the eligible scores from this year, I think the consensus pick would be challengers, but that wasn't here. And when we get into a situation like that of the one that everyone likes the best isn't nominated, that kind of impacts the result, but also the Brutalist score is good. The Brutalist, much like Oppenheimer the previous year, Brutalist is a very long movie, and the score plays during long sections of the movie, feels operatic at times. There's some very big moments with that score, particularly the opening. So you watch it and you understand why it won. And you think, okay, will the other nominees be good? I don't know if they... I mean, Conclave has a very good... I like the score in Conclave, but I think it's almost a bit too loud. I think it's almost a bit too on the nose, and I don't think it works within the structure of the film as well as The Brutalist does. I think, in general, people like The Brutalist win a little bit more. I love Wild Robot, and I would be very, very happy if Wild Robot, had one score, but that was never going to happen. If Wild Robot was a serious contender for the win, then I would put Brutalist down, but I knew that they weren't going to choose that. If we polled a whole bunch of people on film Twitter and asked them which is the best score, I think Brutalist would win out, but just barely. I do think this is sort of straddling the line, but I think in general people are like, oh yeah, Brutalist, that's a pretty good choice. Dune Part 2 for visual effects. Yeah, I kind of have to put it here because it's just undeniable. Although I will say, when the visual effects artists did their video reacting to the Oscar nominees, they were like, Planet of the Apes is actually more impressive. Planet of the Apes is actually doing the cool... It's pushing the medium of visual effects further more than Dune Part 2. And so I kind of... See, there's a part of me, I think I would have been tempted to vote for Planet of the Apes, to be perfectly honest with you. Just because that franchise has never won. But... Okay, I'm debating this. Visual effects, which is better? Which is the more impressive? Which is no one going to argue with? I guess visual effects, because the sandworm scene looks so impressive. Yeah, they're both great wins. I'm going to put visual effects here. But Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes also would have been a deserving win. And now we have our number one tier. Sorry, I'm still here, fans, but let me explain why I'm putting this number one. The Substance winning for Best Makeup and Hairstyling, I think, is just objectively the correct choice. And it's such an inspired choice. They didn't have to go for it. Remember when this premiered at Cannes and people were like, oh, in a just world, that would be winning Best Makeup, but it's probably not going to get nominated because the Oscars don't like body horror movies. And it's for so much... There are so many horror movies that have not gotten recognized in the makeup and hairstyling category that really should have been. And I think the fact that The Substance not only got nominated for a picture, but nominated for director, nominated for actress, nominated for screenplay, it was this big, big deal. And so once it got all that, you knew it was winning makeup. And when I looked at people's anonymous Oscar ballots, I was like... I saw people that were like, I really didn't like The Substance. I thought it was too on the nose, too gory, but I can't not vote for Best Makeup. I mean, come on. I respect the craft. And so I really don't think you can argue. Now, I'm still here. Obviously, that was a very, very big win for Brazil, and I'm sure people are going to be upset at this in the comments, but I think the achievement of the makeup is just so strong. And you see it and you're like, of course, it could never be anything else. Even though the other four nominees in the category are also very deserving, it has to be this one. I'm still here. It's mostly there because of what it beats, because it was such... We really did dodge a bullet because Emilia Perez came very close to winning, but which if that had won, it would be way at the bottom. But I'm going to put this here. And this is very close, but I think they're both top-tier wins. I really don't think you can argue with The Substance here. Okay, so I took a little bit of a break, and now I'm coming back to talk about Best Costume Design. Now, okay, this is a win I think most people are pretty happy about. This was the very first prediction video that I did, and I think I really appreciate what they did with having the actors in the movies present this category and showing off the work. That was really cool. It still highlighted the fact that Wicked is pretty far above the competitors here. Uh, Complete Unknown and Conclave were solid work, but very subtle work in Best Picture nominees. And Wicked and Nosferatu and Gladiator 2, impressive work, flashy work, but I don't know if they were quite as flashy to compete with Wicked. So much has been said about the costume design of this film. And apparently, Paul Tazewell not only became the first black man to win this category, but he could pull off the incredibly rare feat of winning an Oscar and a Tony in the same year for his work on Death Becomes Her. So great for him. And I think I have to put this in the top tier. Do I put it? Yeah, I'll put it there. I feel pretty confident about its win there. Production design. Okay. So similar story, but I will say it faces steeper competition because both Dune Part 2 and Nosferatu look really, really amazing. Brutalist, and less flashy than the other nominees, but still really impressive work given the budget. For me, I know for a fact I would vote for Wicked and costume design. Production design, I think I would hesitate for a little bit because of Nosferatu, but then I would remember the sheer scale of those sets, and I think I ultimately would vote for it here. So I don't know too many people who are upset about this. Do I? See, I feel like you could get away with putting it down here, and Flo being there is sort of messing with me because I think I'm going to put it at the very bottom of objectively the correct choice because I could see someone making a compelling argument for either Brutalist or Nosferatu. But I think it's just really, really strong work. Oh, so far we got some really strong wins in the tech categories. And we're following that up with Brutalist and cinematography. I don't know if you can read that tiny font, by the way. I spent a long time making these graphics. I thought that the gold font would pop, but some of these pictures it does. Cinematography is the one it really struggles against. That bright poster for Brutalist is really... Okay, so cinematography for the Brutalist. See, this one actually maybe belongs in Up for Debate because it's very... On the one hand, it's very impressive work, but it's not the flashiest. Nosferatu is flashier, and I would have voted for that. But I can't deny what the cinematographer for that movie had to do in order to make the movie feel so grand on such a tight budget. Like, it's really clever that they managed to pull it off. And even though, see, this is tough. I love Nosferatu, and I probably would have voted for Nosferatu, but maybe thinking about it more, Brutalist, I respect the win. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised that Brutalist managed to win because usually they just go with what's flashier. And the technique that was involved to make Brutalist and also to make it feel like it was this epic older movie, the fact that it was shot on film, which you so rarely see these days. Do I put it here? Do I put it? I think Nosferatu is so darn good, not just in the flashiness, but also in the technique, I'm going to say that this is up for debate. I think both are amazing. And do I move Flo down? No, I'm going to keep Flo there for now. I'm going to say that this cinematography is up for debate, but still a great win. Yeah, also Dune Part 2 would have been good. What else was there? Not Emilia Perez. Maria, if for some people that would have been a very good win. Oh boy, now we come to film editing. Let me just take a swig of my water. So, last night I actually rewatched Anora because I knew I was going to be making this video and I wanted to talk as objectively as possible about Anora's wins. I'm going to talk about my feelings on the film overall when I get to Best Picture. In regards to editing, watching the movie a second time did make me I appreciate this win a little bit more because of the home invasion sequence. That scene is like 35 minutes of like consecutive action pretty much entirely in real time. And the way that they just keep the energy going with both the tension and the comedy perfectly balanced. It's just, that scene is deserving of a best editing win. I don't know if I can say the same for the rest of the movie. I think the movie as a whole has some pacing issues, but see, I don't think it's a bad win. It's not Bohemian Rhapsody level. And I should probably mention this is one of the few wins that I got wrong. I got 6 of my 23 wins wrong. I got all of the shorts wrong. I got animated feature wrong. And I got editing wrong. I said it would be Conclave. Conclave does make sense on paper. The thing is, you so rarely see a Best Picture winner take editing. It doesn't happen as often as you'd think it would. It's happened 5 times since the preferential ballot. 2 of those times were recent, Everything Everywhere and Oppenheimer, both of which have very showy editing and would have won that category regardless of if they won picture. And then before that, you have to go all the way back to Argo and then The Hurt Locker. So it doesn't happen all the time. And Parasite is an example of, we thought that the movie would take editing with it, and it didn't. They usually like to go a different way. So in trying to figure out how it won, I think it was just no one was really sure what to do. Because you look at those 5 nominees, and none of them really jump out as being super, super well edited, super, super flashy. I think if we had something like either Challengers or September 5 in that editing lineup, even if it wasn't nominated for picture, I think there's a good chance that it would have won because it's just the flashiest thing there. It's just the thing, you look at it and you go, oh yeah, editing. And I mean, Anora, it's definitely not poorly edited for the most part. I think it's a solid win. But also, usually the Oscars like to spread the wealth a little bit. And it's weird now that this movie, this small indie movie, I thought maybe it could just take 2 or 3. It took 5. It was insane that this movie was so well loved. And 4 of those Oscars went to the same guy, Mr. Sean Baker. And it is rare that a director edits their movies. And for the record, I've edited all the projects that I've directed, and I feel like it's probably the way that things should be done because there's no compromising of the vision. But the thing is, I like the movie. I like the job. I like the job that was done to create this. Conclave, I think, would have made a lot of sense as an editing winner. And I think Conclave probably would have been the consensus. I don't know. Because here's the thing. I'm trying to scope out how people feel about Anora winning 5 Oscars. And some people are very happy by it, and others are like, I mean, but did it have to take 5? I mean, it's a good movie, but 5 Oscars. And 4 of them for Sean Baker. This guy won 4 Oscars in one night for one movie, something that no one else in history has ever done before. Even when Bong Joon-ho won for Parasite, the International Feature Oscar technically did not go to him. But Bong Joon-ho, but Sean Baker, man, Martin Scorsese in his entire career has 1 Academy Award, and Sean Baker just won 4 for the same movie. So, I mean, I think the work is fine. But I do think there is maybe this slight, I guess, it's not the flashiest thing in the world. It's fine, but did Anora really need to win 5, I think is the real question here. And especially when you compare it to something like Challengers or September 5 or Dune or The Substance that wasn't here. It's crazy that they snubbed all the movies that have the flashiest editing in this category. Because I guess that this is a solid... I think it's close. I'm going to put it here for now because I think even there's a lot of people who really like this movie but are like, but did it really need to take editing? Adapted screenplay. Okay, so I think this is a pretty good choice. I think this movie, Conclave, it's tough. It was taking all of the precursors, a very writerly film, very showy film, and the argument that I made is, well, if you've read the book, you'll know that the dialogue is like 90% word for word what's in the book, so it wasn't that great of a feat of adaptation, which is a fair point, but at the same time, how many Oscar voters have read the book. I think a lot of them are just like, ooh, dialogue. And to be fair, like, that was the correct way to adapt this book, was to keep all the great dialogue in. They weren't going to change it. So I can't really be mad at them that they didn't make that great of a change. So it's a good screenplay. It's a solid screenplay. And this movie has really grown on me as months have gone on in awards season. I'm very happy that it has one Oscar, and if it's gonna win one Oscar, this is the one to give it. I do feel like I would have voted for Sing Sing, and I think as time goes on and more people discover Sing Sing, people are gonna be upset that it didn't win any of its nominations. I can't put it in here. I think some people would. I can't fully say it 100% deserves to be in here. I think I'm gonna put it here because it's solid, maybe above. No, I think this is a solid win, not what I would have voted for. And I think some people really love Nickel Boys. I really love Sing Sing. I think either of those would have made a really interesting choice, but Conclave is also, it's a very solid choice, but I don't know if it's quite in this top tier. Original screenplay, oh boy. So taking all of my personal feelings on the screenplay aside, this does make a certain degree of sense as the winner. The thing is, this category was so weird because we had The Substance and A Real Pain, and The Substance in many ways kind of feels like a typical winner with your Get Out, with your Everything Everywhere, with your Promising Young Woman. It fits into that wild genre film that this is the category. It's the most original nominee in the category. So Substance would have made a certain degree of sense. And then there was A Real Pain, which is the most writerly film, which it's so interesting. After it won the BAFTA, I saw so many people switching to A Real Pain and being like, I think it's going to break that stat. And I was steadfast that it's not going to break the stat. We've never seen a non-Best Picture nominee win screenplay in the expanded era, and I don't think it's ever going to happen unless it sweeps all the precursors. And A Real Pain, a lot of people were very positive that it was going to happen. I never wavered. Sorry. But for this category, it's tough. It's really tough. I would have personally voted for The Substance. I'm not going to hide that. This win, I kind of want to keep it here. Kind of want to keep it up for debate. I think people are going to be upset at me, though. So, again, not personal bias. What does the general population think? I don't know. Because Substance has a lot of fans, and A Real Pain has a lot of fans. I think it was legitimately close, but then Anora won Picture, so it was probably higher than that, at least in the broader Academy terms. But I don't know what film Twitter would go for, and okay, I'm going to leave it at up for debate, and maybe you can argue with me on that. But I have such problems with the screenplay, and I don't think I'm the only one. I think the other two make compelling enough arguments. I'm probably going to get more hate for this than for anything else. Let's go into the acting categories now. Ooh, maybe not. Let's, in terms of hate, what do you say about Kieran Culkin? Because he's playing a character that is meant to be both endearing and irritating at the same time. And for me, I found him a little more irritating than endearing. And there's also the fact that he is objectively a lead actor in the movie. And that's another thing people are talking about, is that we've had category fraud performances win in supporting before. It happens a lot. But I think this is the very first time that both supporting actor and supporting actress went to a performance that was pretty objectively committing category fraud. So we have 4 lead performances winning Oscars. And with Culkin, I really don't know. I know the movie is well-liked to a certain extent, but how many people are going to be irritated by the character and also irritated that he doesn't change much from his persona? And I think this win, a big part of it is just, hey, we loved you in Succession. And I think a big part of it was just wanting to keep the train going from that show. Because if you look at the other nominees, I don't think there was a clear alternative. When I ask who deserved to win, I don't know if there's going to be a clear choice. I would have gone for Guy Pearce, but I know some people that would have gone for Strong or, Norton. I don't know about Norton. Norton is good in the movie, but also that movie did not have as much love as we thought it would early on. And Borisov honestly was probably number two, given the fact that the movie won everything else. And to be honest, I wouldn't have hated a Borisov win. He's good in that. I don't know where to put this one. I don't know, because I think people are going to be upset at this win, but I don't think there's a clear consensus. So I think people like it. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to put it here at the very top of Up for Debate, not quite in Pretty Good Choice yet. And then we have Zoe Saldana. What do we say about this performance? It's tough. It's really tough because we hate the movie. Clearly, that's the more time passes, the more this movie is just going to be despised. And the fact that it won 2 Oscars, one of them in an above-the-line category, people are not going to like that. Also, like Culkin, objectively lead. She has more screen time in her movie than Gascon. So, but at the same time, people really like Zoe Saldana. She's proven what a great actress she is. She's very compelling in those big blockbusters she does. And it's one of those situations where voters were like, we like you. Please do a movie that's not a blockbuster because we're not going to nominate you for playing Neytiri or Gamora. So Zoe Saldana, we're not going to nominate you for green makeup, but we might nominate Cynthia Erivo for green makeup. And so she's not bad in the movie. She's kind of compelled. She does what she can with that script. She's also category fraud, but what's funny is I never saw, when people were criticizing every single aspect of Amelia Perez, they always tended to leave her out of it, and they also didn't bring up category fraud as much. I think in general, people understood that Amelia was the central character of the film, even though she had less screen time than Saldana. And it's tough. That El Mal song is the best scene in the movie, and it's largely due to Saldana, and she really does carry it. I don't know how this is going to win, because here's the other thing, too. I think if you asked the consensus choice in supporting actress, people would say Ariana Grande. But is Ariana Grande going to win next year? She could. That is not impossible. She gets so much to do in that second half with Thank Goodness and For Good. So if Grande wins next year, then I don't think people are going to be too upset looking back that Saldana won this year. But if Grande doesn't win next year, then people are going to be like, okay, Grande should have won for one of the 2 Wicked movies, and it's easy to say she should have won for the first one because we don't like the movie that Saldana was in. But I really don't know how this win is going to age, because I think in general people prefer the Grande. I kind of want to put it in here. See, because even though Saldana is good in the movie, but is she truly Oscar-worthy? I think if you compare what Saldana is doing to what Grande is doing, I think Grande is just better. I'm sorry, but she is. Saldana has a better career, though. And so it's... and they're both co-leads. Number 3 in that category was Isabella Rossellini, who's only in her movie for 8 minutes, but honestly would not have been a bad winner because she really does a lot with those 8 minutes. But how is she ever going to win when she's going up against 2 co-leads? So, I'll put her in the middle of not a great choice. She's a better win than the song. I think we can agree on that. But it still is unfortunate that this movie is an above-the-line winner. And every time we go back to talk about the Oscars of 2024, we gotta talk about Saldana. We gotta talk about this movie that Saldana won for, and it's just always gonna be a little bit uncomfortable. But you know what? If Saldana does some other awardsy movie and it says Academy Award winner Zoe Saldana, I don't think people are going to be too upset. Saldana's got a great career, and she wasn't going to win for a blockbuster, so this is at least she has an Oscar, and I don't think people are upset that she has an Oscar. People like her. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave it. Best Actor, Adrien Brody. Okay, so this is interesting, because I think before the telecast, there was a consensus that Brody gave the best performance. After the telecast, a lot of people are like, why did he have to win? Because that's a big, big factor of his win. The fact that he gave the longest speech in history. I still can't wrap my mind around that, because Greer Garson had that record for 82 years. Okay, she won for Mrs. Minifer, and that record stood for 82 years, and then Adrian Brody beat it. And if you're gonna beat that record, I feel like you should have something to say. This is his second win. He knew he was probably gonna win because the precursors were all in his favor. And like, write a speech, prepare a speech, organize. Just jot down your thoughts, organize what you're going to say. And this guy, he said some things of substance, but it took him forever to get there. And what was really awkward was he spent so much time with his speech being like, I'll be brief, I'll wrap this up, don't play me off, I just got one more thing to say, I got one more thing, I'm going to be brief, And he spent most of his speech talking about how he was going to be brief. It was just really, really awkward, and it just felt like he was just stammering and sort of going in circles and not really arriving on a point. Like, I would hate to be behind him in line at Starbucks. Like, I'm going to have the, what's this? He feels like the sort of person who would just spend forever trying to get to the point. And so and it's funny because the first time he won Best Actor, he kissed Halle Berry on stage, and that was a whole thing. And people wonder, why hasn't he had a great career in between his two Oscars wins? Because he's done some good stuff, but he's never done anything in between the two movies that would have warranted him coming back for another nomination. And so people recognize that Adrian Brody clearly has a lot of talent, but it's just so awkward because what has he done? Clearly, he can act very, very well in the right role, as evidenced by both The Pianist and The Brutalist. But also, is this how he acts off camera? The way that he acted when he was giving this speech? So I don't know if this is going to start a whole new thing of his career. But then, when we're asking the question, was this the correct choice? Who else could have won? Chalamet? I think that's a good performance, but I don't know if he necessarily needed to win for that. And I feel Chalamet's career mirrors a young DiCaprio in so many ways, and I really think they're going to make him wait for it. They're going to make him just really, really hone his craft, and what he wins for is going to be undeniable. And I probably would have voted for Stan in this category, not going to lie, but that I don't know how that would have played. If Stan had won, what kind of speech would he have given? It would have been very awkward, the implications going forward. Domingo and Fiennes both very good, but Fiennes, he hasn't won an Oscar yet. Maybe some people were rooting for him to win this year, but I don't love that performance a lot, and I think he should win for something a little bit better. And Domingo would have been good, but I do think Brody gives a really, really good performance. I think you watch the movie and you're like, yeah, that win makes sense. But, okay, I'm going to put him in pretty good choice. I'm going to put him above Culkin, but just the edge. I think the awkwardness of the speech does sort of cloud how we view it as a winner. I don't want to put him too much higher. I think it's the best of the wins so far, but the best of the acting wins so far. Let's just talk about Madison. Let's wrap it up with the 3 Honora wins, because this one is tough. And I actually ran a poll on social media asking what people would prefer who would they have voted for in Best Actress. And it was pretty close between Madison and Moore. But in the end, people chose Moore. And see, what's so tough about this is that Demi Moore undeniably had the narrative of the year, which is why she won the precursors. But when you break it down to the best performance, there's some debate. Is it Moore? Is it Madison? Is it Torres? Is it Arrivo? It's certainly not Gascon. People don't really know. There was division. It was up for debate. But then there was this whole thing after Madison won, which I called in my Best Actress video, that it kind of looks weird given the themes of The Substance for Demi Moore to lose Best Actress to this 20-something. Now, granted, there has been sort of a backlash to that backlash, with people saying that doesn't mean that Madison isn't very talented in the film. And Hollywood, clearly, if you look at the last couple of years at the Oscars, with Frances McDormand winning, Olivia Colman winning, who was just last year? Michelle Yeoh. Michelle Yeoh. Obviously, last year was Emma Stone, but Michelle Yeoh also won. So these are older women winning in this category. So it's not like the Oscars are giving it to ingenues every single year. But every once in a while, they give it to an ingenue. We don't know what Mikey Madison's career is going to look like now that she's won an Oscar at such an early age. Where do you go from there? Some actresses can really struggle, and actors. Some actors and actresses can really struggle of where to put your career when you win an Oscar right at the very beginning. And Madison, she's definitely a good actress. She definitely has talent, and I do admire her as a person. I watched an interview that she did where she talked about how to prepare for her role in the movie, she learned how to dance like a stripper. And when she said that, the audience started laughing and she shut it down. She was like, I worked very hard to do this. I took my role very seriously, and it was a lot of very tough preparation. It was hard what I had to do. And so I respect her. I respect her respect for the sex worker industry. It's tough because we can get into a whole conversation about the Oscars rewarding this type of role, the quote-unquote hooker with a heart of gold. And usually with this sort of character, it's like a manic pixie dream girl. It's not the main character. This is one of those rare instances where the sex worker is the protagonist. And also, there's whole other issues about why Demi didn't win. Yes, she had the narrative, but there was concern about her film not appealing to all Academy voters, concern about her. Moore shares a lot of that screen time with her co-star, Margaret Qualley. Meanwhile, Mikey Madison is in almost every scene of the movie. And Mikey Madison does give a very loud performance. She gets to shout a lot. She gets to swear a lot. Demi Moore has some loud moments, but a lot of that performance is also reserved and quiet. So it does make a certain amount of sense that Madison won, especially given that they loved Honor so much. I don't know. In terms of how this win is going to age, I think a lot of that is going to depend on the career that Mikey Madison goes on to have. And I don't know. I don't know what her next role is. I feel like it's probably going to be like the love interest in some superhero movie. I feel like she's not going to... I want the best for her. In spite of everything, I do like her as an actress. I think she has talent, and I want to see her continue to expand her abilities. But I don't know. I think I don't want to put it here. I don't want to put it here. I'm going to put it at the end of Up for Debate because I think less than a screenplay, it's a good performance, but Demi Moore also would have been so amazing, also would have been giving a great speech, to say nothing of Erivo and Torres, who both have their fans. So this is a really, really tough choice I think people will continue to debate about for a very long time. Okay, coming back one last time because I had a little bit of a break again. This is turning into a very, very long video. I did not think it would be this long. So let's wrap this up now. Best Director, Sean Baker. Okay, so this is interesting because of the 5 nominees, I think very few people are going to say Audiard or Mangold. Farja would have been amazing if it had happened, but I think we all recognize that the Academy isn't that cool. They're not going to do that. Now, between Sean Baker and Brady Corbet. Now, Brady Corbet has... No, Sean Baker, I'll talk about Baker first. Baker has this narrative because he's been in the industry longer. Voters have seen Florida Project, Tangerine, Red Rocket. Maybe not all of them have seen those movies, but Baker has made a name for himself with the types of stories that he likes to tell. And you can tell you're watching a Sean Baker movie. So I think that made people want to vote for him. Now, you can argue that him winning 4 Oscars is a lot for one night, but I feel like I appreciate the director win more than the screenplay win, which is weird because a lot of people on the surface, Honor looks like more of a screenplay movie than a director movie. But I think watching it a second time, I really did appreciate the way that he staged it, the way the scenes were blocked out, which is a big part of directing. the way he captured a lot of the lighting. This is a well-directed movie. My issues have to do with the writing more, but yeah, get to that in a minute. But so here's the thing with Best Director this year. It was either going to be Baker or Courbet. And Courbet, he's so new. He's so new to the industry. But if you actually compare the directorial achievement of The Brutalist versus Anora, I feel like Brutalist is more impressive, because I know that Courbet is so new and people feel like, oh, he's being a little bit cocky in the interviews. But I feel like if I had directed The Brutalist, I would earn the right to be a little bit cocky. Like, it's kind of insane. That movie is so inspiring for so many up-and-coming filmmakers that, like, have this passion project that they want to make, but they don't feel like they have the resources to do it. Freddie Courbet made a 3.5-hour period epic with under $10 million. And the reason he was able to do it is because he was very, very smart about it. And I think a lot of eyes, people have really taken notice about with Courbet, with what he pulled off. I think people are really going to be intrigued about his next movie. Like, what happens if we give this guy an actual respectable budget? What's it going to look like? So I don't know, because I do respect the direction of Anora, and I think people like Baker. Baker has made more of a name for himself in the industry, so I get why he won. And again, I probably would have voted for Farjah either way. Do I? I'll put him. I don't know. I know that Anora has its fans, but it has its detractors, and there's some that would have preferred it winning just screenplay. And I think if Anora was going to win a second Oscar, would I prefer it to win director or screenplay? And again, not me trying to suss out what the majority of people would think. I think people like A Real Pain and Substance just a little bit more in the screenplay to sort of nudge out. Okay, it's tough, but I do think this one is up for debate, because I think it's not a great, oh my God, what an amazing win, but it's a solid win that a good enough amount of people are happy about. And because we're over an hour now, I don't want to waste too much more time. Best Picture. Fun fact, after watching Anora a second time, I was debating going on a whole tangent about my own personal thoughts on the film. And now that I'm seeing how much time I've spent, I'm probably not going to do that. If you would like to see a whole video where I break down my feelings on Anora, let me know. Because I've been afraid to say anything, because I know my opinions are not what everyone else's opinions are. And there is a big difference between I don't like this film and this was a bad film. One is an opinion, the other is a fact. I don't like this film, but I would not say that it is a bad film. I think that from a filmmaking perspective, it's very well done. And I totally understand, well, I'm struggling a little bit, but I don't doubt when people say that they love this movie. It's just one that I have a hard time with. And so I think the majority of people on film Twitter especially are happy with this choice. But there are some that are not happy with this choice. And I'm not just talking about the people who have only seen Wicked and The Substance and are like, boo, Wicked was robbed. I mean, I've seen all the Best Picture nominees, and I would have voted for Wicked, but that's neither here nor there. Because, like, Conclave, Brutalist, they all would have set different things as a winner. And there's a whole question of what is this movie saying when it's winning Best Picture? Especially coming off the crazy year we've had with the most recent election. Is Anora really saying anything? Other than screw Russians, arguably? I don't really know. I'm surprised that so many people have described Anora as about the American dream, when for me, Brutalist is much more that kind of movie. Because I think the general consensus is that Anora is a very good movie and a deserving Best Picture winner. I think just going off of what Film Twitter thinks, this movie is better liked But I don't think this movie is as liked as something like Oppenheimer or Everything Everywhere. I think this movie is well liked enough that I could have potentially seen something else beat it. But the crazy thing with this year was the whole controversy with Emilia Perez. That movie at one point in time looked like it was poised to take Best Picture. And I think if it had actually gone on to do that, it would have, the Oscars as an organization may have never recovered. So we got over that. And now this is the one we landed on. Now, I do think number 2 was most likely Conclave, which would have been a solid win, but I don't know if everyone would have been satisfied with it. I don't know if some people might have been like, oh, what is this saying about religion? But then you give it to a movie about a sex worker. So I don't know. It's tough, but I think Anora is generally a well-liked film. I'm not going to put over Brody. I think this is the appropriate place to put it, at least combining my thoughts with my perceived thoughts of the people of film Twitter. I think the consensus is Anora, good movie, maybe not the best in the category, but the one that everybody could agree on. And so, yeah, one thing I do want to point out about Oscar ceremony is Oscar season is never truly over. And I'm not just saying that because we go right into the next season. I'm saying that because we constantly are reevaluating Oscar races. There's so many podcasts and YouTube videos breaking down Oscar races of bygone days. And so people are always going to be talking about this year. They're always going to be talking about, did Mikey Madison or Demi Moore deserve to win? They're always going to be talking about how crazy it is that I'm Still Here got into Best Picture. And they're always going to be talking about Emilia Perez, really, and how crazy that movie was and how insane it was that it almost won Best Picture. And we're like, well, aren't we glad that we have Anora instead? Nothing like a sex worker to bring everybody together. Okay, I really, really don't want to be mean. I just personally wish that I wish that I liked the movie a little bit more that took home the prize for Best Picture of the year. But really, my top 10 of the year was very much out of sorts of what the Academy wanted to do. The only 2 movies that were in my top 10 that are in the Academy's top 10 were Wicked and The Substance. And I knew pretty early on that neither of those were winning. Conclave and Brutalist would have been solid choices, but I don't know. Because I don't know how people are going to view Anora as time goes on. If people are going to be like, oh yeah, that was a great choice, or like, it was okay, but really, over the competition, 5 wins, that's the big thing. I think if Anora had only won 2 or 3, I think people would be a lot more forgiving. But the fact that it won 5, the Oscars just need to be better about spreading the wealth in a year with this wide variety of movies. Would it really have been so bad if Demi had won actress or if Conclave had won editing? I don't know. But at least when we look at the guilds, I think there's more wins that people are generally happy about than wins that people are generally not happy about. And some years it looks different than this. If you would want me to go back to previous Oscar ceremonies, let me know. Although it's going to be a long video again. This is okay. I'm now setting the record for the longest video I've ever made. Thank you very much. I'll be brief. Okay. So how do I end this as soon as possible? Thank you so much for your continued support through my Oscar season. I'm very grateful for the support. And let me know if you want to see more content like this. I'm going to really try this year to branch out and do more fun stuff with my YouTube channel and more creative stuff with my YouTube channel. So definitely let me know if that's something that you would like to see. And with that, we can finally say farewell, adieu to this awards season.